So, prepping 2023 by Sigma Prepper. Obviously, all my stuff's completely original. I design all the slides myself. I do the research myself, and so on and so forth. So, yeah. Surviving the economic crisis. Asterisk. Asterisk. Right. Surviving the economic crisis. Asterisk. Or how to survive the economic crisis. 2023, if that's when it's going to happen, which is very likely. A more strategic approach to preparedness, which is how we do here on Sigma Prepper. The asterisk is because, of course, everyone knows this. Everybody knows this. For information purposes only, yeah? Because I'm not a financial advisor and nothing at all, like nothing with a K and an F, yeah? Nothing at all shall be considered financial advice, yeah? Do what you want with your sheets. Do what you want with your sheets. Don't do what I say. I don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, information purposes only. Obviously, make your own decisions into when it comes to any financial decisions, and you know, make sure you talk to you know. Anyway, let's do it then. Boom. Let's go. Lovely to have everyone. Miss Worm in the house. There she is. Lastminute.com, steaming in the back door, gliding through in her stilettos. Is that how it went, Miss Worm? Is it? Did you glide in on your stilettos through the fire exit in the back fire exit? Yeah. Hope no one will notice. Right, let's do it, shall we? Let's go, my absolute beauties. Here we go, then. So first and foremost, you know how we like. We just like to set the scene. Deep breath. Shall we? Hold on. Come on. Cheers, everyone. Love, peace and progress to the pack. Cheers, everyone. Oh, yummy. Tea for me. Let us know what you're rocking with. See, Miss Worm had trouble starting the broomstick. I thought it was a kickstart. Right, here we go. Now we're ready because I have my sip of tea. Hold on. I need another sip of my British tea. Right, now we're really ready to rock and roll. Boom. So why do we need to prepare? Come on, we all know that. But just in case you don't. Modern Western societies are suffering from learned dependency, as I like to call it, compared to our more skilled ancestors. If you think sort of way back, all the stuff they could do, they all had chickens, goats and all the rest of it at home. They all knew how to fix their own stuff and fashion their own things out of tools, right? We're nothing like that anymore. So we're even more delicately balanced. And of course, self-reliance knowledge is at an all-time low because of that. Our grandparents, when they were rocking, if they were rocking, you know, they knew the score. They knew how to get things done. And as time's gone on and as the generations have gone on, it's not looking good out there. Yeah, so all-time low. Globalized supply chain, we're all relying on everyone. And we've already seen in the last 3 years how this JIT system, globalized supply chain, can really pinch us in the you-know-what when we're not looking. And even when we are looking. So, yeah, definitely not ideal. Economy teetering on the edge. I mean, the economy was teetering on the edge last year. I don't even know what you call it this time. Hence, this is why we're here, surviving the economic crisis. We've all seen what's been going on with the banks failing and things like this, and all the shifting around that's going on in the background, right? It's very clear to see to anyone who's got their eyes open. So resources stretched to the maximum, of course. You know, we've got population at an all-time high as well, combined with the resources being sort of stretched and restricted, you know, with things like all the vegetables and things like this that were, and the crops that were failed crops. You've got all the warehouse productions and things that are set on fire. Don't forget, over the last sort of 24 months, we've had lots of warehouse fires, particularly food storage. So these are all cascading and compounding effects, which are all going to basically compound on top of each other. And of course, critically reliant on tech and big government as well, as they've made sure of. Again, part of that learned dependency is part of a bigger plan, as you all probably know. Poverty and crime on the rise. I'd say a super duper peak maximum is what I'd call it. So why bother listening to what I've got to say? I hear you say. And by the way, let's turn on the live activity alerts, because this is the super chats, don't forget. You can do Streamlabs, Daily Survival, whack in a link for you if you want to support the show. So we'll get the live alerts here. If we see anybody subscribe, in this little box up above me, yeah, then we can give them some respect. Yeah. Or indeed, if anyone does any super chats via streamlabs.com/Sigma Prepper. Why learn with me? Lots of great prepper YouTube channels out there offering loads of preparedness information. However, watch out, because following bad advice in this bidney can be, and we don't want that. We don't want anyone getting logged out permanently now, do we? We don't want anyone getting themselves logged out of the administration prematurely. So I've been prepping for more than 20 years. I need to update this. It's more like 25 years, which sounds, 20 plus years. Anyway, long time. Polymath and autodidact basically means I know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff, essentially. 100% exclusive and original. It's nothing that I ever do in any of these. This is like the 5th one on this channel anyway. They're all like 100% from me. No, I don't copy anyone else. I don't really watch many other people. This is based on having visited 40 countries and had my own personal experience of SHTF scenarios living in Southeast Asia and during earthquakes and tsunamis and floods and tropical storms and goodness knows what else, right? And economic crises, being out of the country, living as a foreigner in a foreign country during the 2008 crash. So having significantly more challenges than the average Joe, let's say, tends to help you become survival enthusiast, critical thinker, highly analytical, and so on, right? Well, previous careers. So, take everything I say with a pinch of salt, but if you see any value in it, then, just know it comes from a place of OCD levels of research and, stuff like that. Anyone who knows me from a long time ago, as many of you do who's in the chat right now. So plausible SHTF scenarios, it's all very well, but what are the things that could make it a likely event to even worth preparing for or worrying about? And of course, we're seeing that now. The societal economic collapse, that's already triggering right now, isn't it? The widespread hardware failure could be another thing that happens that could knock out all the banking system and things like this. Yeah, major weather disaster perhaps. Fuel and gas shortages, which we've already seen last year, that could lead to more. Some form of attack, that could be governmental, could be organisation or something like that. Cyber attack, of course, always a threat right now. That seems to be ramping up in the mainstream, doesn't it? The cyber attack side of things. And then the military EMP, that could take out the grid, which would do way more than just take the economy down, right? And that would be way more problems than even we had before. And of course, solar flare is another version of EMP, and there is some solar flare activity going on at the moment on the sun, actually. It's a big coronal hole, anyway, facing us. So I will just say, expect the possibility of maybe some larger than normal quakes over about the next 72 hours, 48 hours. I'll just put that out there. Or some other black swan event, of course, that we haven't thought of, or they haven't thought of, could take place, yeah? Alien invasion, perhaps. Who knows? But either way, as you saw earlier on, sigmaprepper.com/SHTF-Intel, you can check that out, and of course it'll give you an idea of the sort of things that are most likely to be the things on this list as a plausible scenario. But I don't think we need much convincing, because it's all happening in front of our eyes. But don't forget, while we're here, we have set up a poll, a live poll today. So thank you everybody in the chat that's voted already. We've had 21 votes so far. So please cast your vote in the chat. And if you check it now, if you're with us live, you'll see it. And the question is, what is the safest, in your humble opinion, what is the safest storage of wealth to survive an economic crisis? What is the safest storage of wealth to survive an economic crisis? And the options I've given you are gold and silver, stocks and shares, cryptocurrency, or land and property. So they're the 4. There's more that we're going to be talking about tonight, but here's the 4 that I've given you as part of our live poll we like to do when we're doing our Prepping 2023 SHTF scenario segment. So have fun with that, get yourself in there and cast your vote. I've already cast mine from my viewing channel, let's say. Thank you, please. And at the end of the show, or towards the end of the show, we'll be checking in and seeing how that panned out, and indeed what the vote ended up being, and who won. We'll see who won. And of course, do it now. Don't wait until we get to the end and then you already get a really major heads up on all the things and all the options, because that's what this show's about. You're supposed to cast your vote now, and then at the end, see how right or wrong you were, right? And don't forget, the reason I do these live is because I like the collaboration and I like the input from you in the live chat. So follow along with me with the slides, and there'll be lots of moments where I'll be asking you feedback, and we'll be building the knowledge base here and the familiarity around this subject for those who aren't as familiar with economics and options and things like this, right? And so the live chat's going to form part of the forum tonight that we'll be working with and padding out some of the other options that people can think of as well. So this is completely and utterly interactive and live. That's the reason why I do it live. So please get yourself in the live chat, which you'll see next to the video running if you're watching this right now. So, and send a link to your friends and family as well if you think they'd enjoy following along and they'd benefit from the content here. So, the situation report then, the sit rep, as people say it, so because it makes them sound more knowledgeable. So the situation report is, right, this is our SHTF scenario basically. This is our pretend but very likely scenario in the near future, right? So the situation report here is, we're going to assume a hypothetical SHTF scenario based on real events, right, that have happened frequently throughout history. So we've seen how this pans out basically the time before. It's just this, we haven't seen how this is going to pan out because it's so much bigger than it was before. Yeah, because in 2008 it never really did what it was supposed to do. It was sort of like wallpapered over. So we've still got what happened in 2008 that didn't happen in 2008 on top of what's going to happen now as well. And don't forget, when Obama was finished, he had doubled the entire debt of the United States of all presidents before him combined. Yeah? That's quite amazing. Let alone, obviously, what they've done recently with the $6 trillion with whatever it was they printed to do whatever, right? Amazing. So, situation report is, we are going to assume complete and utter economic collapse, right? And what that's going to look like is emergency bank holiday will be called, all trade and commerce will be ceased, cash machines and all the ATMs, they're going to be empty, the stock market will most definitely be halted, the bank bail-ins, they're just going to be absolutely taking your sheets, just like they did in Cyprus was the playbook for that, the blueprint, if you like. They've legalized that in all countries now, if you look into that. Nice, nice. State of emergency will be declared. Whoop, whoop. Yeah. I don't know about tanks driving up and down the streets, but either way, a state of emergency will be declared. So, here we go then. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, and of course, you know, we're all Sigma preppers, so of course we do. Yeah. I guarantee Tom Cruise in his character in Mission Impossible, 100% he's a Sigma, not an Alpha. Anyway. Analyze the sequence of events leading up to and during a full-blown financial collapse. And we're going to be understanding the short, medium and long-term financial prepping. And we're going to prepare for a complete and sustained SHTF economic crisis, including subsequent cascades of failure. And there are many. We're not going to go through all of them. I have talked about it on other shows, and I'll refer you to them as we go. So ultimately, we want to survive the SHTF with minimal loss of financial wealth, mitigate personal harm or damage to you, your loved ones, or your property. So to make it clearer, you'll see in a minute, we're going to break it down into a timeline as to the now, the during, and the after, right? So the objectives then, we want to be learning how we can prepare with maximum efficiency, minimize the risk of missing critical items, unseen gotchas, and other common oversights. We haven't got time to make mistakes, basically. We haven't got the money to make mistakes either, buying things we shouldn't have bought or selling things we shouldn't have sold, and so on, right? So we want to minimize the risk of doing things we wish we hadn't done, right? And we want to see working examples of false economy traps to avoid as well. And of course, ensure we're getting the most survival juice out of our prepping squeeze, please. So, is that referring, just talking to perps here, so are you referring to the voting options? So, obviously with all of these prepping 2023 shows and so on, we have some unique considerations. So there is no one size fits all. It's all a bespoke custom solution for each of you. Of course, if you are a VIP Patreon member, then we have one-to-one conversations during the week, private conversations. You can ask me anything and I can put you together a completely bespoke custom plan based on your situation. But for those watching right now, your climate and environment is going to dictate a lot in terms of what energy things you need to. Let's assume a grid down scenario, or assume a complete and utter societal collapse for a couple of weeks, or lockdown for a couple of weeks or something. We're going to need to figure some stuff out, right? So you've got to figure out your climate and environment. It's going to be different for you. Local laws and restrictions, depending on what country you're in, will be different. You know, what sort of protection you can have, if you know what I mean. Local culture and crime levels will obviously dictate how much you want to be spending on different things, and your motivations for spending may be slanted slightly towards protection more if you're living in a high crime level, or if you live in a rural off-grid cabin somewhere, then of course your focus and attention will be slightly more larger towards other things. So that's the idea of this, right? And of course, depending on your property size, garden, how much space you've got for even keeping preps and stuff and whatever we talk about tonight. Family size, dependents and pets, and of course, you know, if you've got a family of 12, it's going to be a different problem to solve than if it's just you on your own in a bedroom flat, right? And of course, disabilities, fitness and health needs is going to dictate a lot, and your mobility and things that you can do and options you've got. And of course, budget and financial means is a big one right now. I know this is going to be a big thing. A lot of people may feel like it's not relevant to them because they haven't got really any money to worry about trying to not lose during any economic crisis or collapse or reset that we may come up against in the very near future. So personal survival and self-defense knowledge is going to be pretty variable as well, obviously, depending on how long you've been following and seeing with Prepper Channel. Cheers, my beauties. So, economic collapse, the signs. Of course, it's all very well, but let's talk about what the signs will be so we can start getting ourselves a little bit more, you know, need to act type thing, yeah? When the time's right. And of course, we are running out of time, I'll put it that way, right about now. So here's how we'll know we're out of time. So we'll start to see a rapid inflation of critical items and services. I think we're definitely seeing that right now. Obviously, inflation's in the news all of the time. Do you know, funnily enough, I wrote this script. It's not really a script, but I wrote this presentation, maybe started it about 9 months ago before any of this was going on. And I have rejigged quite a lot of it since, actually. So I'm glad I didn't do it when I was going to do it last year. It actually worked out kind of quite well. But then again, some people might complain that they wish they'd known some of this stuff a year ago, right? So I do apologise. But so reduction in banking credit facilities. Funnily enough, I'm seeing that reported recently where people's overdrafts seem to have been shrunk and their credit limits on their credit cards seem to have been shrunk. And without any warning as well, no notification, just sorry about your luck. Nice one. So banking stocks begin to fall in price. We've seen that last week. If you refer back to the SHTF Intel report I did on Friday, the 15th, was it the 17th of March? You'll see that link below in the description of this video if you want to check it out after the show. Banking stocks begin to fall in price. We saw that big time. Gold and silver prices increased to record levels. We are starting to see that push the $2,000 an ounce for gold mark and $25 an ounce for silver. But we are running about a 1:88 ratio, gold to silver. 88 ounces of silver is going to get you 1 ounce of gold. So that's moved. Multiple banks experience long queues. I've seen various TikTok videos showing exactly such things already. Scary stuff. ATMs, automatic teller machines and cash machines running out of cash. Running out or just not being replenished? I'd say more likely not being replenished. Let me know what you think in the chat. And in the comments below if you're watching this afterwards. Government and mainstream all claiming, quote unquote, nothing to worry about. That's when you definitely know the score. It's the same as in Greece, yeah, when they called that thingy bob on Friday. It was like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll get it sorted out, all your money will be okay. And then Sunday they called emergency bank holiday, cha-ching, sorry about your luck, everyone lost their sheets. The bankers never lose, don't forget. It's heads I win, tails you lose. And here it is, the wealth timeline. So here's our major, this is what the entire show tonight boils down to, right? This is ultimately what we would like to take away from today is you've got your wealth now You've got the epic reset collapse, whatever that's going to be, and then you've got when the dust settles after. And obviously the question is, have you lost it or kept it? Have you lost your sheets or kept your sheets? Yummy. Thank you, Magic Hand, for the cup of tea. Much appreciating it. Thank you. So our objective is to carry over as much of our wealth from now to after the event with minimal losses or depreciation. So that's what we're trying to achieve today. That is the objective. How do we straddle that gap in the middle, that nasty SHTF scenario in the middle of the economic crisis, the Great Reset, whatever we end up calling it, right? Or what it, like, retrospectively in the future, looking back, what we call it in the history books, yeah? That's what we're figuring out. And don't forget, super two-way things. So anything that you've got that you want to add live in the chat, please do it. Please do it. And of course, we'll be showing people what you've got. We can share what you've got to add as well, right? And we can make it a combined knowledge base of all our highly knowledgeable, particularly the Patreon VIPs. When we have our after parties, the amount of stuff that we collectively know as our Sigma Prepper family, and it's free for anyone to join if you sign up on patreon.com/Sigma Prepper. And it's such lovely chats that we have all open after the show tonight. We'll be having one. And it's lovely to know how much they know, so that when we're in situations like this, and I know I can see the VIP Patreon members in the chat, and I know how much they all know, right? It's very warming for me to know how much knowledge combined we've got ready to rock and roll tonight. So it's going to be an awesome show. Please share it with your friends and family. So survive the economic reset. That's the idea, right? So what we're going to do, right, is we're going to consider a hypothetical situation, and we're just going to put some timelines and some dates on it so we can start getting our mindset. We need to get, because this is some people struggle with being able to, I guess one of my fortes as a prototyping engineer, and I have like epic levels of hyperphantasia, which is where you can visualize anything in your head you want in 3D and all that stuff and break it apart and zoom in like I'm doing now, but you're still seeing the normal world at the same time, right? So some people aren't able to visualize themselves in a situation in the future that's a hypothetical one. So I appreciate that, and not everybody feels comfortable to do that, but just try as much as we can to get ourselves in the mindset, just to think through what this means, right? Because a lot of people don't actually spend the time to just sit down and just think it through logically, step by step, and this is what I like to do. So let's try and get ourselves into the mindset, and let's just imagine a scenario, right? Let's say in 9 months from now, so in 9 months time, there's going to be a total reset, right? Sharp, sudden. Yeah, that's usually how it pans out. Exponential. Boom. Emergency bank holiday. You know how it rolls, right? So we've got 9 months to prepare. I don't think we've got 9 months, but for the purposes of this scenario, we're just going to assume 9 months, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to split the timeline into now, what we can do in that 9 months, right? Up until, you know, when time's up, rubber duck. Yeah. Then we're going to split, then we're going to have the during the SHTF crisis that could go on for a while, but we're going to assume lasting 6 months from start of it going epic, and then by the time you come out the other side, for the long term, after the event, and by the time the dust settles and the post-apocalypse, right, and so on. And we're going to deal with each of these parts of the timeline piece by piece, and we'll start trying to get ourselves into the mindset and to try and feel, just to feel the vibe of how we're going to be needing to look ahead, right? What a superstar. Oh, Dave and Laura Hay here is one of my favourite sayings, this is, and I knew this would come up at some point tonight, right? Why aren't you a Patreon member, David and Laura Hay? Gold is the currency of kings, silver is the currency of gentlemen, and paper the currency of peasants. I usually say fiat currency, as in pounds and pence, and dollars is the currency of slaves, in fact, is the one I use. So I would have said it differently. So just for my own purposes, I would have said gold is the currency of kings, silver is the currency of gentlemen, and fiat currency, pounds and dollars, is the currency of slaves. You can choose my one or your one, David, but either way, what an epically valid and relevant quote for tonight. Nice one, David. Thank you very much for being here with us. So let's storm into it then. Let's look at what we got right now as our optionos. What is it that we have as our optionos right now? how do we prepare anyway? Like, what would we even do? Visualize is important as daily survival. Certainly, I find that's the way for me. And also, I find as a prototyping engineer, I design reasonably complex circuits. Talking of which, actually, shall I give you a little sneak peek? Yeah, go on in. This is a new Sigma Prepper survival trinket device that I'm designing. Electronic engineer as well, by the way, prototype engineer. So I'm prototyping this at the moment with just separate circuit boards, and I'm programming the processor here as a touchscreen, TFT touchscreen, which is a beautiful little touchscreen. So it's going to be a little handheld survival trinket with all like knowledge base on it. It's going to be absolutely epic. So that's what I've been working on over Christmas. Thank you very much for the patrons to allow me to be able to work on things like that, and you will all be made partners in the business and have shares, right? So this is the idea then. How do we prepare? So we need to reduce monthly outgoings is one obviously thing, and I've been doing that, and I've been having to do that anyway. I mean, I've not got too much to go. TV license. What's a TV license? Yes, Americans and those who aren't from the United Kingdom, TV license that you have to have. It's about maybe $15, $20 a month, and it's if you have a TV that can pick up BBC, like you'd want to pay for that. BBC, then you have to pay TV license. But we haven't watched BBC, and we can't watch BBC. We don't have an antenna attached for terrestrial received TV. So there's not really any reason legally or any other reason we would need it, but it's just I only pay it because I can't be bothered with the hassle. Because if you don't pay it, they come knocking on the door going, "Oh, are you watching the TV? Are you watching the TV?" It's almost worth $20 just not to have that hassle, right? Not to have the ag. Who wants the ag? But I'm getting to the point now where that's like $20 that, you know, could be an extra 20 minutes I can keep the lights on, right? So things like this, yeah, priorities and figuring it out. Obviously, you know, that doesn't include reducing your Patreon membership or not being a patron on Sigma Prepper, obviously. So generate additional income. A lot of people right now, it's big out there with the old side hustles. Particularly, you got people all using like the AI, ChatGPT things with little side hustles, earning some money. Maybe getting a little eBay shop up and running and selling off some old stuff. Etsy store, something like that. If you or your partner happens to be quite creative and has a hobby making stuff, you know, of course that's an option. Little Etsy store, selling your little creations privately, and it's that can be great as well. So things like that, investing in food and stuff, you know, in terms of stuff you need, batteries, you know, survival stuff, you know, food, and seeds and things like that as well is a great thing to do. Keep your old hardware and tools. You don't know how that's going to come in. If you happen to be cash rich and time poor, for example, and you don't really need to sell your items to raise some cash to buy other things that you may need more in an SHTF scenario, then of course I would say keep all of your old hardware and tools. You never know how handy it may come in, and of course you may have a neighbor come round during an SHTF scenario where it's complete grid down or whatever they've done to reset the system once and for all. I imagine it's probably going to be a couple of weeks of grid down scenarios, what I'm imagining, but that's just my assumption based on what I know and what I would do if I were them. It would give a good excuse to reset all the banking records and cyber attack combined to say, oh, we've lost all the records, sorry about your luck, everyone owns nothing, but you're all going to be happy, you know how it goes. So keep your old hardware and tools, because you never know, it could come in great as barter things or as spare parts to maybe fix other things that you've got that break in an SHTF scenario. More for the reasons you can't think of than for the reasons that you can, as they say. Yeah. And as Perp says here, look, my absolute darling, and I hope you had a great party with your son whose birthday it was last week, so happy birthday again for him. I hope the party went well. Reducing monthly outgoings is now impossible when everything is going up at ridiculous rates. I'll have nothing else to reduce. Absolutely. There's not much I can do. I've already reduced my TV package and telephone package to the minimum it can be. Do you know what I mean? It's like... And yesterday, Magic Hand's exhaust basically fell off the car. So thank you so very much to those that have been supporters of the channel, because without you, Lich, yeah? So thank you to all the Patreon members. Thank you to Danger Bob as well for the way that you help and support. Just such a bunch of great people. And Perps as well is not only a VIP Patreon, but also sends in cool gifts for our Hugo Bear. our 60 kilogram, 130 pound South African Mastiff Boerboel, if you haven't met him. Get rid of TV license. A few letters threatening me. Scared. Nothing since. Been about 3 years. You don't have an aerial. All they need to know. Okay, maybe. Yeah. I need to pluck up the courage, Purple. Heat Seeker Bus in the house. Great to see you. Great to see you with us. Thank you very much for being with us. So Heat Seeker Bus got some stage lights, party and disco lights. Going to put them to work. Absolutely. Absolutely. IE Media in the house with us as well. He'll be live as my guest on my Saturday show on a different channel. So thank you so much, IE Media, for being in the house. Keeping the lights and exhausts on. Thank you so much again, Danger Bob. Miss Worm just had to buy a whole new roof. Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, our place is falling apart. And this is what I'm saying about priorities. It's just like, oh man, where do you even start, right? So these are the ways that we can do it. But it's also important that if you do start getting a surplus of stuff and of preps and things like this, and you do have money to spare, then don't stop. Basically, geo-disperse your preps. If you have a second home somewhere, or you have a storage unit somewhere, or maybe an RV or something like that, then start getting preps and stuff that you can put in those locations as well, just in case you need to bug out for whatever reason that you can't think of, right? Floods, fires, you never know, right? Toxic chemical spills, if you know what I mean. Could be a whole number of reasons. So if you're in a position to, and of course you can geo-disperse your preps, and then if one place gets compromised, then of course you've got your alternative locations, and of course that includes things like building stash decoys and backups, having a small box of tins and things, so if you get raided you can say, oh, this is all I've got, this is all I've got, and then you just take it and run. Decoy, right? I'll get into more of this on more of a dedicated show, but these are the things to think about. Improve your health and fitness, because you're gonna wish you had. As it goes for me as well. I am going to be doing what I was going to be doing last year with my what was it, the Federal American US Army, the US Army fitness test, I think I was going to do, wasn't it? So I'm going to be working up to doing this summer, and I'll be sharing my progress here on Sigma Prepper, and I might even get my shirt off, so we'll see how that goes. Build stash decoys and backups, improve your health and fitness, invest time in skills and knowledge, obviously keep watching the Sigma Prepper shows and things like that. Keep reading the things you need to read, and keep watching the things you need to watch, and keep practicing the things you need to practice. Protection and security systems, get them installed now if you've got some spare cash, and of course strengthen local friendships if you have any locally, and start making them if not. So Danger Bob asked me last night, it was like a good question actually, it's like, what do we do about debt, you know? Because on this list you could say, well, maybe another thing that you should be doing right now is to get rid of debt. Now it's a tricky one, because it can go one or two ways, right? You could say some could say, let me know what you think in the chat, but some could say that perhaps there'll be some sort of a debt jubilee, right? A Jewish debt jubilee is where a debt gets cancelled, right? It's unlikely. Others would say that it's unlikely, but not beyond the realm of possibility, right? I will say that. The other thing as well, you see, is that debt in the form of mortgages, bank loans, and things like this, and even credit cards, right? Because the contract in those contracts are for repayment in pounds or dollars or whatever country your contract is in, will be the currency it's in, right? There's no provisions in there for suddenly switching it to some central bank digital currency or some other currency, some universal basic income credit or whatever, right? So theoretically, in terms of, I've looked it up, and legally it would suggest that that contract, that credit contract would become null and void at that point, right? So they wouldn't be redeemable. They wouldn't have any ask for any money back. So they could say debt jubilee, right? Who knows? The other way looking at it is maybe you can just do what, so you can pay it off, right? Now, if it's a case of you've got a load of cash and you've got a home that you've got a mortgage on, you may be better off using that cash in the bank to pay the mortgage off, because that's going to be one of the things that's going to happen with the reset, as you'll see on the next slide, is that when things get reset, this is where they'll start repossessing and, you know, foreclosing, as they say in America, right? Foreclosing on properties, and you know, that will be their excuse they need to swipe it from you, if you know what I mean. So if you don't have a mortgage on your property, then you could suggest that, yes, that would make you slightly more immune from any foreclosures or bankruptcies, well, not bankruptcies, but any foreclosures and stuff like that. They couldn't seize your house. So that's definitely a 101. I'm sure anybody who's in a position to pay their mortgage off would just do it anyway, because there's no point paying interest when you don't need to. And of course, or you can just do what the government does. Let us know what the government does with their debt. Do you know what their trick is? Let us know in the chat. Storm has arrived, thunder and lightning. So you got some dodgy weather over there, Robert, have you? Cheers, everybody. Oh. Don't forget, please hit the like button if you haven't done already. And do cast your vote in the poll tonight. What is the safest storage of wealth to survive an economic crisis is the question tonight. The choices are gold and silver, stocks and shares, cryptocurrency, or land and property. You'll see that in the live chat next to this video. And you'll see the options you can choose from, or under this video if you're watching in portrait view. IE Media here saying, I hear work from jobs, i.e. remote customer service, are good to go work for at the minute if you're stuck for work, and they are less at threat if we have any more lockdown scenarios. Nicely done, IE Media. Thank you. Appreciate that. Get someone else to pay it. That's another option. Yeah, that's a very good option, Miss Worm. Yeah. I'll send you a total, my darling. I'll send you a total of what you owe, eh? Oh dear. So Purple Flurple in the house. If we learn anything from the lockdown, retail are essential in terms of essential workers. They will be the only thing left open because they were. Go for retail for extra jobs. Yeah, we've got some great suggestions coming in. Very dark and scary right now where you are with the thunder and storm. Or print off a few £50 notes on the photocopy. There is always that. Let's all wish good weather vibes to Robert, who's got some epic, maybe tornadoes rocking through there. So do what government does. What does government do? What they do is they just wait as long as they possibly can before paying off their debt, because then as the currency depreciates, they're theoretically paying off less, aren't they? Yeah, because it gets to the point where, like in Zimbabwe and Venezuela, where a loaf of bread is like $100 for a loaf of bread. So their debt is worth less in terms of gold to settle the debt than the currency that they owe as the number that they owe in trillions. When, do you understand what I'm saying? So that's what they do. They just wait as long as they can so that their debt just becomes worth even less, because they devalue the currency at a faster rate than the accrued interest on the debt. It's classic. Is Netrum designing the house? He is as well. And you know, normally I'd say, Netrum, there's no such thing as being late. You got here exactly when you intend to do. But in this case, Netrum, you are actually late. But you're all right, because we're just getting into it, so it's all good. So, next up, yeah, look, IE Media, bank robbery is also an option. It is. And of course, that could lead to at least, you know, some jail time, which then means that you'd be safe with 3 square meals a day. That's one other option, isn't it? To ride it out. So here we go then. Sorry to say it, but time's up. Time's up. So we're here, right? This is the economic crisis right now in the timeline. Slide 11, to be precise, is where we're at. So on this day, when it happens, which will probably be... Okay, just for some historic value, right? Typically, economic crashes have happened in October. October. It's the downturn of the economic season and the trading season. So it's the if there's going to be a time that's the most fragile time for the economy, it's going to be October. So that's one thing. The other thing as well is it's probably going to be on a Sunday. Yeah, they'll say something on a Friday and then the banks will never open on the Monday or the Tuesday or the Wednesday or for some time, while they do their switcheroo, resetteroo. So at this point in time, and it will happen very quickly, so let's just assume we've had our 9 months of doing what we were just doing here, right? Figuring out what you're going to do about your debt, making your decisions about that. Don't forget, it's just for information purposes only. It's not financial advice, right? But you've had 9 months to do all this and decide how you're going to go about all this. And of course, there's lots of videos that I've done that can help you, you know, figure these things out if you're new to preparedness and prepping, right? So what do we do about debt? You got to figure that out. And then it gets to the point where now we're at time's up, right? So there's no direct debits happening anymore out of your account to pay the bills. There's no cash machines working, no ATMs, right? There's no PayPal, e-commerce, Venmo, any of that, right? It's all stopped. Today, it's Monday, Bank Holiday Monday, including everything else as well, because guess why? Because the currency value of all currencies, yen, euros, pounds, dollars, right? Doesn't matter, will be zero. All retail stores will be closed because there'll be no way to trade anyway, because the tills won't work because there's no central processing on any debit cards or credit cards working, right? And of course, account access to your bank account will be denied. Yeah, so this is basically what we're talking about. Amphir in the house, great to see you, my man. Great to see you. So Amphir's running out of ideas for preps. They even purchased a Petromax potato cooker the other week. I'll tell you what, I've got a massive list of stuff you can send me, Amphir. You can start through my list if you want. But there may be something here. Obviously, I don't know. I'm sure you've seen the Prepping Principles, Advanced Preppers Principles video, which we'll have a little plug in a minute. So the idea being, you see, the thing to absorb here, the thing to just get your mindset into is the fact that on this day, this is no joke, right? This is lich, right? It'll be on one day, it will happen very quickly, and it'll happen everywhere at the same time. This is why I'm saying it'll either be on a grid down scenario or it'll be on a cyber attack scenario, which will subsequently lead to grid down scenario, right? Because they need to shut it all down so they can do their hokey pokey in the background. So then when they start it back up, reset, right? Zero. Onto the new currency, the world, you know what currency, right? So what you have is what you have at this point. They won't be going down the shop and buying another bag of rice, or they won't be like ordering that, you know, that hammer and chisel or that axe or whatever you needed from Amazon, right? See you later. What you've got is what you've got at this point. So that's the first thing. Now, just as a reminder, because this was the original situation report, don't forget the sit rep. So, emergency bank holiday will be called, right? All trade and commerce will be ceased because there'll be no way of trading. Your cash machines are going to be empty or just turned off in this case, probably. Stock market will be halted. Yeah, they'll close all trading and stuff like they've already done that several times over the last few weeks when all the banking crisis was happening. Yeah, and all the banks were failing. Dun, 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 dun. They started shutting down and reverse ordering the stock market stuff. It's bad news, man, when they have to do that. You lose a lot of credibility for that. Rude style. So yeah, stock market will be halted. The bank bail-ins will start being taken if there's even anything left. Because we could go through hyperinflation before that, right? Where we see $100 loaf of bread. And of course, with this state of emergency being declared, if you've looked at the executive orders and things that Obama and Trump have been and Biden have been implementing over the last couple of years, you'll see, the last couple of political terms in America, you'll see what state of emergency being declared will actually involve, right? And it's a growing list of pretty dystopian stuff. So good luck to you over there in America, but not like we're going to get it much different over this side of the pond either, since we are lockstep, if you know what I mean, hand in hand, hip to hip, cheek to cheek. Yeah, America and Angolais. Cheers to every nationality who follows Sigma Pepper. Oh. Thank you everyone for joining me tonight and being with us live in the chat, helping us get through this show. So yeah, this is what we're talking about. This was a situation report, and of course, as we've just seen, looks very similar, doesn't it? So let's crack on then, because now we are here. This is it. Yeah, this is the SHTF event. This is the Great Reset, as they call it. Right. Let's just call it. We'll get through it. It'll be all right. Quick swig. So here we go then. Our next mission, or phase of the mission, is to obviously survive the event. So this in the timeline, this is the SHTF scenario part in the middle, which we need to try and bridge the gap and bring our wealth with us, whatever wealth we have, and see how we end up at the other end, whether it's worth more, less, or doesn't exist anymore. So, deep breath, daily survival. Kaza was drinking tea. Now she's going for the brandy. Reaching for the hard stuff. Reboot the Matrix. Exactly. Exactly, David. And Laura. Sorry, I don't want to miss Laura out. So here we go then. What we're going to need to be worrying about, or trying to, you know, figure out that we've got sorted out beforehand, is the food production and storage side of stuff. You want to be making sure, because of course, without being able to buy anything, right, and all cash machines empty and trade and commerce ceased, right, what you've got is what you've got, lich. So you're going to need to have like a couple of weeks worth of food. You're going to need to have a couple of weeks worth of energy production and storage, assuming lights go out, because that is probably the guise under which they're going to be able to do all of the little hokery pokery bidnit that they plan to do, if you know what I mean. So good to have some medical knowledge and supplies, decent first aid kit. I've got a great show coming up. I'll be doing showing you what I've got in my first aid kit after many years of bushcraft camping, survival camping, and so on. That's been refined over the years based on what you actually use, not what people think that you use. Most preppers out there who sell medical first aid kits are pretty disappointing. I've been sent a couple of them as, you know, gifts and stuff like that, and yeah. So proper medical kit I'm talking about, actual usable, useful one, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I need to do that show quickly. And supplies, security and protection, again, another show I really need to do. I have done one on a previous channel, which came out really well, and people found it very useful. So we'll do that one again with some updates, right? Communications and tactical. You're going to need to be able to communicate outside of the internet potentially, particularly if the grid's down, right? So ham radios, you know, LoRa, 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 long range, low power radio signals, such as the survival radio, using a ESP32 microprocessor to be able to send text messages encrypted point to point as a wireless mesh network, independent of the internet and stuff like that, right? So hardware, tools, supplies. You know, you're going to be needing to fix things. You're not going to be able to pay builders and DIYers to come around and fix stuff for you now, are you, for a while? So yeah, repair items, spare parts, community and support group. You're going to need to get that figured out and make sure you've got some tight neighbors and you know what they've got and they know what you've got, and how you're going to help each other, and what your passions are, what your skills are, what your hobbies are, and how they can be utilized effectively by skill sharing and knowledge sharing amongst your local community that you've hopefully managed to build. So essentials for barter items, of course, always good to have on hand. As I said, it's a pretty good thing, even keeping old things and stuff, right? You may have something that somebody else needs as a spare part. One man's trash is another man's treasure and all that, right? So, or man short for human, obviously, no male female bidney going on. So barter items, you know, stuff like lighters, gas, you know, refilling gas, you know, lighter fluid, alcohol bottles, all that kind of usual stuff, right? Again, we'll get into that on another show. So cash in various denominations. Now you see there's an asterisk on this one because, of course, you're only going to get away with this for a short amount of time until people start realising that all the cash they're being given for the stuff they're selling to their neighbours and their people across the street, right, during this time, isn't going to be worth diddly by the end of it. And it's going to take maybe a couple of days, or maybe you get away with it for a week before people start to realise that, you know, those pounds and those dollars ain't never coming back. So yeah, I'm just being honest, right? Baofengs are cheap on eBay too. Do you know what, IE Media? I looked on AliExpress today, and those Baofengs, £11.84. £11.84 for a Baofeng UV5R Plus, which is just your standard. But it's a good radio, right? It's like £12, which is about $15. Craziness. Batteries, very essential, yeah, big time. And again, I'll take you through what a 1 week prep list and what a 1 month prep list looks like as well. So referring to this is the Prepping 2022 SHTF survival scenarios. One of the first ones I did just to set the groundwork and just to set the fundamentals, and so that we all know we're all starting from the same starting point. I spent a lot of time putting the advanced principles of prepping together, which is not like you'll see on any other prepping channel, probably on YouTube, right? It's very important that you watch it, particularly because it talks about prepper profiles as well, and not making a mistake of overlooking stuff and so on. And again, there is a link in the description to this video if you want to watch it afterwards, after this one. So some of the things that it goes through on that number 1 advanced principles of prepping is like classic prepping mistakes. You know, preppers who basically think that they're prepped but they're not, yeah, because they're, you know, they're just watching somebody who's very passionate about one thing like growing food. But they forget about all the other important stuff, right? So multiple unseen short and long-term threats, overconfidence in a single discipline. You've got highly vulnerable and critical disciplines. You know, they'll have loads of one thing and not anything of anything else, right? False sense of security and complacency, badly thought through and half-baked ideas, illogical investments in survival gear and preps. See that a lot. Victims of false economy traps and so on, right? So this is basically part of what this went into was what I called the prepper profiles. Which one are you, right? And as part of this, it was all about looking at the different ways that people are into different stuff, right? So just to give you some sneak peek slides of what I covered in that video. This is what the unprepared, what everyone else looks like in their graph of what preps they've got over on the left hand side there. So if you can't read it, it's water and filtration. Then we got food and store. This is in order of what's going to log you out of admin the first, right? Your rule of threes, don't forget. 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food, right? That's basically the rule. So you'll notice that these are in order of that, right? So we'll assume shelter's figured out. So water and filtration, then we got food storage, then we got energy and fuel, then we got medical supplies, then we got security and protection, pets and animal supplies, hunting and growing, and hardware supplies, right? And the point I'm making here is that this is the timeline here in months. You see the first 6 months there, right? So the idea being is that different people, this guy's can probably sustain for about 3 to 4 weeks, assuming they've got any water stored anywhere, right? But it goes through the differences. You've got like the classic hunter, right, who's really into all the gear and no idea. Well, they've probably got an idea, but they've got all the hunting stuff, but look, they've got nothing else to the same level, right? So they're not going to make it to 18 months, right, to use their hunting stuff, because they're going to be running out of energy and fuel way before that, medical supplies and things like this. And they've totally forgotten about their pets and animal supplies. So don't forget, that's an important one as well, because the kitchen queen's a classic one, right? I've got people in the chat with me right now who've admitted themselves to being kitchen queens. And that can be male or female or in-betweener. Doesn't matter. Kitchen queen. Because look, they're right into the water and filtration. They've got themselves a Berkey and maybe a couple of spare Berkey filters in their packets as well, ready to go to swap out. Food storage, absolutely off the scale. Brilliantly done. Look, 2 years worth of food. All neatly packaged up. All neatly oxygen... you know, oxygen absorber and shrink wrapped and canned and heat treated and all these wonderful things that the kitchen queens will get up to. But check it out, look at the security and protection, absolutely wide open. All they're doing is they're just buying stuff and cooking stuff for someone else to walk into your house and take from you. So don't be the kitchen queen, right? Because look at the predicted outcome up at top there. No protection, invaded, overpowered, robbed. Yeah. It's not just that as well. You'll see the energy and fuel is going to be a problem. They're going to have no light or cooking ability to make anything else with no energy and fuel to cook up water, right? So this was a big a sort of show I went into. This is all part of that advanced prepping principles, and this is the commando prepper profile. Everyone knows a commando. There's quite a few of them on YouTube, right? Like to walk around carrying their shotgun and stuff, and you know, giving it all the big man stuff, yeah. So, and again, what you'll often find is a bunch of stuff that they're totally they're just not into, they're just not bothered about, right? They just want all the toys, yeah, particularly these types of toys. right? And you'll see medical supplies. No, I ain't bothered because I'm invincible. I'm never going to get hurt, so I don't need to worry about medical supplies. Yeah. Energy and fuel. What's that? Don't know. No idea about solar power, off-grid battery banks, lithium polymer, lithium phosphate, lithium titanate. I don't know. Right? And I can't be bothered because I'll just use my commando gear to take stuff from. I'll use my commando gear basically to take stuff from old you know who. Kitchen Queen, right? The Kitchen Queen's, the commando's coming into Kitchen Queen, right? So you get the point. So this is what we were talking about, right? So don't do that. Don't do that. And again, if you want to see more, link in the description, Advanced Prepping Principles 001. So 1 week preparations then. This is what it looks like. We didn't skip over anything, did we? No. So this is what I'm talking about here, sorry. This video here is what I was just giving you a sneak peek of. That covers all the prepper profiles and so on, right? So, yeah, don't be doing this. So this is what 1 week's worth of preparations looks like, basically. If we assume 1 week or 1 month's worth of, you know, cyber attack or whatever they're going to do, internet outage, grid down, banking closure, state of emergency, reset, whatever. 7 days of water, bottled drink, because you never know what's going to happen. 1 week's worth of food. 3 USB battery banks to recharge your phone several times to keep yourself sorted out on your mobile phones and stuff. The good 70 watt hour types, you know, the big chunky beasts, like this size. You need about 3 of them at least to keep your ham radios charged and the odd smartphone, right? So essential medication and storage, but again, 1 week, not too bad, but it will get gnarly within about 4 days in terms of civil unrest. Riots and protests will be starting way before the actual banking thing hits, right? Several days before. So 1 month preparations looks very different. And of course, the approximate investment up there, about $4,500 to get yourself 1 month of preps to be totally self-sustaining. And again, 4 weeks worth of water is difficult to store in bottles. And this is why we start getting into things like you're better off having a water butt in the garden if you've got such a thing, or on your driveway, and a decent filter, you know, that can filter that water, and it gives you more options. And food storage, again, 4 weeks of food. Now you're talking about 12 USB battery banks, which is going to get super costly, which is part of what I talk about in that show. So you're better off getting yourself a small 100 watt, 200 watt solar power off-grid battery bank system with a basic battery. You'll save about 50% at least of the money than buying a whole load of USB battery banks. So look into that. Don't be silly. You know, look at the false economies, as I said, because you can come unstuck doing that. And again, extensive first aid kit, because if things are going to be down for 1 month, you've got to assume people are going to be getting very desperate by week 2 and week 3. So by then, there's been all sorts of break-ins, there's been all sorts of home invasions, all sorts of, you know, shops being raided, and there'll be nothing left in the high street. You know how it goes. So this is where your personal protection, comms and defences, don't forget about that, right? And of course, don't forget about your pets. Noelle Marie, yeah, I'm talking to you, Noelle Marie. What a perfect, beautiful guest she was last week. Thank you, Noelle Marie. But yeah, she did admit to me that when she was doing her preps originally, until she saw my original show, the one we just were seeing, a 001, Advanced Principles of Prepping, she hadn't got anything for her pets. So please remember your animals and loved ones. So hunting and growing, there shouldn't be much need. For a month, you can sustain with what you get. So hardware and spares though, timber, ply, basic tools, few spares, because you may need to make some repairs on your property if things get really gnarly, which is what we have to assume. So just as a reminder then, when we talk about prepping and when we're talking about sort of what your options are in terms of when it comes to getting yourself prepared for 1 month or 1 week, respectively, this is based on the considerations of your unique situation where you are, right? So you're going to have your climate, your environment. Either you need like special heating because you're in the Arctic somewhere, or maybe off-grid, some off-grid version of power good enough to run air conditioning units if you're in the middle of the desert and so on, right? So everyone's going to have different situations, the different laws and restrictions to what you can buy for protection and security, if you know what I mean, will be variable for you. And of course, the culture and crime levels will dictate a lot of what you'd want to spend on that or not anyway, right? So all of these things are relative and, you know, based on your own considerations that are unique to you, right? So let's assume then, yay, right? Because you've been following Sigma Prepper for long enough now, right? Both on this channel and other ones before it, right? we're going to assume that you've learned enough to make it through that 1 month worst case scenario. Cheers again. Moving on to water now because I'm out of tea. So, well done for making it this far, right? Because you've made it through the SHTF scenario. Well done for surviving the carnage like a true Sigma prepper, right? That doesn't mean you've made it through everything, but at least you physically have, and your family have, and hopefully the stuff that you bought and everything hasn't got robbed and hasn't got lost or burnt to the ground or whatever, right? So assuming that, congratulations. Nicely done, everyone. Nicely done. Purple Furble there. I've ordered glow-in-the-dark tape for floors, etc. If the lights go out, you can see where you're going dark. Yep, nicely done. And again, you can get nice little battery backup things you plug in the wall perps, which are pretty good. But you've got a few little, they've got a little battery inside with just a little LED light, and you plug them into the wall socket, and they sit there charging all the time. And then when the power goes out, the little battery that's built inside it literally plugs into the wall socket perps. Yeah, they're quite good, and they've got enough battery power in there to last a good like 12-24 hours. So if you're caught out in the mix when the lights go out, boom, yeah, at least you can find your way around your house. So look into that. Maybe I'll find a link for them. So you've made it through. You've made it through the SHTF scenario, right? And then obviously things start getting themselves back up and running, right? So this is now the Great Reset, and a new system has been established, and everyone's happy that all their new bank accounts in the new currency, whatever it is, in the new denomination, whatever it is, right? We know it's not going to be cash. We know it's going to be digital. We know it's going to be global. We know it's going to be central, right? And this is what we definitely know. So when I'm talking about the dust settling, that's what I mean. When all these things start settling into place, when we've been to the FEMA camps and picked up our digital ID face map scan we've had to do to then get our digital ID so that we can then go and get our little thing so we can get our UBI carbon footprint credit wallet, so that then we can then go and get the next part so that we can get our login ID as part of our digital ID for the internet access that we'll then be able to get and all this other stuff that we'll have to do, right? Crypto Sam in the house. A better choice would be those small solar garden lights that just work without battery charge. Yeah, assuming you're got enough light in your house to charge them up during the day. So yeah, new system established. So when the dust settles, we've got to figure out, right, with this new economy that we find ourselves in, with this new normal, after it's been built back better, you've heard it all, right? Has your wealth survived? That's the key question, right? So after the dust settles and when it all, right? Question is, you may have survived and congratulations, but has your wealth? So let's look at that, and let's look at what the options were, right? And what one of them would and would not have survived. And this is based on the dust settling new system, don't forget. So whatever currency you had stuff in before, that's not there anymore. That's one of the considerations we have to have. That's one of the potential possibilities. Yeah. So here's the main options as I see it. And don't forget, if you're joining us now, please do vote in tonight's poll, which has been running tonight with everyone live in the chat with us. The poll is, what is the safest storage of wealth to survive an economic crisis? But the 4 options I gave you in tonight's poll, which is active now, so please go and vote for it if you haven't done already. Gold and silver, stocks and shares, cryptocurrency, or land and property. There are your 4 options for the poll, which is still running. We'll reveal the results of that at the end of the show, towards the end of the show. But this is like a more comprehensive, let's call it, but not exhaustive list of your options. And don't forget, this is just for information purposes only, and none of this is meant as financial advice in any way at all, right? So the physical cash, fiat bills, you know, cash money. So I want you to be telling me now, first of all, if you think that there's anything missing off this list that you think could be a good storage of wealth during an SHTF scenario, right? I mean, we're going to go through each of these one by one, right, in the next slides. And we're going to be basically looking at seeing what's going on with each of them, what the pros and cons are, right? But there is an other at the bottom, so if people can come up with something in the chat live as well, then that'd be great. Yeah. So let's start going through them then, shall we? Which one do we choose? Which is the most likely to survive through it? So let's start off with land and property then, shall we? Land and property. Wealth survival. Right, so surviving the economic crisis. Here's the pros and cons of land. And again, do chime in live in the chat with us right now and in the comment section below if you're watching this afterwards, because this is all to build our own Sigma Prepper survival knowledge base over time, including all of your contributions and insights, right? Because again, I like to think that I think through a lot of things from lots of different people's perspectives. Like all the considerations on that list I gave you, depending on where you live or the climate you're in. I do tend to think these things through because I've lived in lots of diverse cultures and countries around the world, right? But that's not to assume you think you know or have covered everything. So that's what this is all about. So I like to do it live. So please do, in the chat, just steam in there if there's something that I've missed or other people, you know, are recommending. So here's some of the pros and cons, and that includes the pros and cons as well. Let us know if there's extra pros and cons, which I'm hoping you'll come up with them, because I know there's more than just 3 on each one. I've just done 3 on each to get the conversation started, right? So right now we're dealing with land and property. Don't forget, we will be going through this list one by one. So just bear in mind, probably most of the things that you'll come up with are going to be contained in one of these. Hardware and stuff, by the way, is literally hardware and stuff. So that's like stuff that you can sell. That could even be your food preps. That could be lumber, copper cable, reels of copper cable, brand new tools, you know, things that you can sell after the event, right? So most things are contained in that, but there might be something more specific that you can think of. So in terms of land and property, though, I think most of you will agree. Good for large amounts of sheets. You know, if you've got like a spare couple of 100,000 sitting around or a couple of mil sitting around, then this is probably more where you're going to be wanting to put your money. And don't forget, if, as we mentioned earlier on, if you have a mortgage on your property, then and you were in a position to clear that mortgage, then of course this would be within this, because that's where most people end up in foreclosure and losing their houses during the economic collapse. And even just lockdowns, don't forget, a couple of years ago, lots of people lost their home because their businesses were shut down against their will, you know, forcibly. So they had no income. What could they do, right? So they couldn't pay their mortgage, and whoomph. Lots of stories online talking about that, right? People lost their houses, their business. You've got that on steroids everywhere, basically, right? So property, here we go. So one of the cons is relies on assumption of reasonable property taxes, etc. Yeah. Let's have a look. Books and knowledge was my next choice, says Crypto Sam. Yeah, really good. I think Daily Survival said skills, so that comes under a similar thing. Great to have you with us, everyone. I'm going to try and get everyone's comments. Do apologise if I missed some of them. David and Laura saying booze. Yes, absolutely, because great for barter items and always sellable, and the price of that always goes up. Because one of the things could be like investment wine, investment brandy, investment whiskey, you know, the barrels that you don't hold yourself, they can be held elsewhere. So there's that as well. So yeah, you've got potential rental income as, of course, one of the pros. So if you do own it outright, and then you're therefore safe from it being repossessed, you know, or foreclosed on and so on. So potential rental income, right? In whatever currency it is, because don't forget, this is after the dust has settled. It could be a completely new currency that we've switched onto now. This is what we're assuming. It's going to be some sort of central bank digital currency, right? So you'll be charging your rent based on central bank digital currency tokens, whatever they might be. It'll probably be like 100 tokens a month will be rent, right? Everywhere in the world, it will be universal, synchronized. So somewhat safe. I mean, this is why it's somewhat Miss Worm. I think because of what Miss Worm was brought up about the whole, you know, it sort of relies on the assumption of reasonable property taxes, because we know that they don't want anyone to own property. Property rights is the one thing they're trying so hard to take away, because it's the sort of like quintessential freedom thing is property rights, as anyone in America will know with your constitution, right? It kind of starts, begins, middles and ends in property rights, you know, being able to own property. Otherwise you haven't got anything, have you? So somewhat safe, but we don't know what little sneaky tricky stuff they're going to come out with to make it really difficult to own property. So some of the downsides, of course, large investment required. So unless you've got plus X hundred thousands of dollars, it's going to be difficult to get into the market and stuff, right? And unless even a small plot of land's going to be tens of thousands of dollars that's going to be usable and worth having and for resale or just for value elements. And of course, this does assume no mortgage or no secured loans, let's say. You don't want any secured debt to your mortgage or to your property either. So that's not just mortgages, that's finance deals and loans that are secured against your home and so on, right? Lengthy purchase process as well. You know, let's assume we've only got 6 to 9 months before D-Day happens and the resets happened. You know, is that enough time to go through full, you know, the process of procurement and stuff and the legal elements and the survey? Yeah. And then the exchange at the end and getting the front door key and then moving in, right? I mean, yeah. So it's a lengthy purchase process. So you're going to have to set out on that journey. It's quite a risky cobbled road ahead, because of course if it all collapses right in the middle of that, right in the middle of going through the purchase process, yeah, of the property, you could be ending up in no man's land, yeah, where you've just, you know, you're in the middle of, you've sold it and the money's, yeah, and then it's like, whoomp, goes to zero. Sorry about your luck, right? Yeah, look, worth noting, Coinbase. We'll wait until we get to cryptocurrencies, Danger Bob. Wait until then and then say it again. Just copy it and keep it on your clipboard. No idea if Coinbase will FTX us on us. Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute, because again, cryptocurrencies is an option, don't forget. It is an option for wealth survival, right? So, let us know if there's any other pros and cons and things you want to add into the property while we're here. David and Laura here saying you will own nothing and be happy. 100% WEF is what they've been saying. And this is what makes it tricky. This is where the on the cons here, on the cons here, I think we would have to add that, David. Yeah, I think you own nothing and be happy as part of that whole. What makes it risky is because they're trying so hard to limit people's ability to buy property, to keep property, to, you know, maintain it, and so on. They may even bring out some limit on the number of properties that you can own as an individual to rent out. So a lot of these you know, these buy to rent mortgages and things, I think they're going to start doing something with that. Who knows? I'm just catching up with people in the chat. So let's move on to... So Crypto Sam, we're following this closely. A lot of the record mishandling of the SEC's Coinbase has a great chance. Yeah, so we're going to get into that in a minute, because obviously people flying around talking about cryptos already. What's next? Right, so physical gold and silver. So this is a popular one. I can tell you at the moment, gold and silver is the winning poll answer at the moment at 63%, but it is close because land and property is tight behind it. Yeah, but we do have 9% of the vote is going cryptocurrency as a safe storage of wealth to ride through the economic crisis. So yeah, it's not completely beyond the realm of possibility if it could be something. But for the time being, before we get to that, we're talking about physical gold and silver. So we're not talking about GLD SLV stock, we're talking about actual sheets. Do I even have anything here? I think, isn't there a, I think there's a silver ounce up there somewhere, is there? That's about it. Oh, yeah. Don't know where it is. It's on the shelf there somewhere. So I've got a silver ounce. So silver, gold, precious metals basically. But out of that, obviously, gold and silver's your default standard. So again, add in the chat and in the comments below. Of course, if you're watching this afterwards, all valid. And of course, we're trying to maximize the knowledge base here on these videos. I put as much effort in my side as I can, and you know, if you can't support financially or in Patreon or things like that, then it'll be great if you can contribute just with your knowledge and your skills in the comment section below, and obviously in the chat live. So thank you so much for everyone being with us. So wealth depends on the ability to transact, but the mark of the beast system is to completely control that ability to transact and deal. Absolutely. And these are all the things we need to keep in consideration for exactly that reason, yeah. So here's some of the pros and cons, and again, please interject with your pros and cons for physical gold and silver. I'm just doing the first 3 on each of these to get the conversation started, right? So good for small amounts, right? If you want to buy like a gram of gold, you can buy a gram of gold. You want to buy an ounce of gold, great. If you want to buy a kilo or a 10 kilo, is it 12.5 kilo? I'm not sure. Those big brick jobbies, yeah, that you see in the movies. In the movies, because I would never see one in real life. I'd love to hold one of them. I'm really intrigued to see how it feels to hold one of those, like you see over there, proper blocks of gold, right? With the twinkly lens flares and everything. Spent way too long making these slides. I hope you're enjoying the show so far, by the way. Please hit the like button if you're appreciating the effort gone into the slides. I always put effort into every one of these shows. I think they're important. As you know, we like to do detail, we like to do depth, we like to cover the things that no one else covers, think things through logically, critically, and come out the other side with some better ideas of and some clearer thoughts as to, you know, what our options are and which way we should be headed, right? Amen, says David. Gold and silver is also easy to hide cash. Yep. 2 tons of gold, please. Absolutely. If you had 2 tons of gold, Media, you'd have more than the entirety of the United States has right now. If you know what I mean. So good for small amounts, you know, and big amounts as well. But up to a certain, yeah. It is the default storage of wealth. How does it go, David? Go on in. I'll let David and Laura put in, because you were the one who said the quote that I was going to say way earlier. And you came out with it earlier on, David, but you gave a difference. Repeat your quote about gold is the money of kings and stuff, and decide which way you're going to say it, my way or your way. See which way you preferred. So, default storage of wealth is what we're getting at there, right? Default storage of wealth. My version of it is gold is the money of kings, silver is the money of gentlemen, and fiat currency, pounds, dollars, euros, is the currency of slaves. So because of that, of course, countries hedge their bets against the economy using gold themselves, which is why gold price is going up. If you remember at the beginning of the show, we looked at some of the indicators and the signs to look for that would say that we're close to that economic crisis, that end collapse that results in the state of emergency, the emergency bank holidays called, and all the stuff shutting down, the banking system going offline for n number of days, weeks or whatever, right? So, likely to appreciate, right? Now, what you would imagine really is when you consider how stamped on and how sort of manipulated, for a better word, the price of precious metals is, it's very disjointed from the actual value based on the scarcity, based on the amount of gold and silver topsoil versus the amount of gold and silver that is held in GLD and SLV stock, paper stock of the gold and silver, right? So as a result of that, it's more likely to appreciate than depreciate, i.e. it's more likely for the value of gold. And if you were to take a you know, let's say an ounce of gold and see how many loaves of bread you get for 1 ounce of gold now, and then with, you know, or now in our timeline, in this timeline, we're after the SHTF in the new system with the new currency, the central currency, there's a global currency that's a completely different denomination. It's like going to a foreign country and it's like 10,000 ringgit for da 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 da, right? People can't get their hand around different currencies, but this is what we're going to be dealing with. And because of that, it's more likely for the gold price to find its market value, and the number of loaves of bread that you'll get for that same ounce of gold in the future, in that new normal, once the dust has settled with all the rainbows and happy stuff, right? When we come out the other side of the SHTF and into the new system, it's what that gold is going to be worth in that new system should be more than what it is worth today, theoretically, right? It's, again, all complete speculation, and of course none of this is financial advice, but that's what most people would agree with as a statement, right? So let us know if you've got some other pros and cons for gold while we're here. So gold and silver have been God's money since the beginning of mankind, 100%. Gram blocks is the best. I'd like some 10-ounce silver bars. That would be nice. 10-ounce bars of silver. They look cool. Yeah. Gold is the currency. King silver currency. Gentleman paper the currency. You see, you say you're doing it the same way as you did it before. Oh no, you switched it out for peasants and slaves. Okay, so we've got like two versions of it. Like both ways. The credit warning on mine. Yeah. Amazing. So, Crypto Sam there, I personally think the world is heading into resource-driven economy. So things like new resources will be good things to hold if you're looking into long-term investments. Like it. Amphi there, gold coins are so specialised, the vast proportion of the population has never seen a standard 1-ounce bullion coin, let alone a quintuple sovereign, i.e. the Mark Dice effect. Yes, I agree. However, this is less about... This is nothing to do with trading this during SHTF, don't forget. This is about the conversion of it would be back into the new currency, whatever that is. Let's just assume it's a central bank digital currency, right? When the dust has settled, don't forget. Yeah? So this is once we've been through this and we've got the new system with the new currency, you would then be taking your gold ounces and you'd be selling it in this new system established currency on eBay or in a gold bullion site or whatever you're selling it to, right, is the idea. So night perpy poos, I'll see you Saturday night, my darling. So again, the cons of gold and silver though, you got safe storage options. I mean, this is bad news if you're going to get robbed, isn't it? Right, you've got the potential confiscation, don't forget as well, because we've got situations where back in the day they did that gold confiscation and they made it illegal to hold, where you had to turn your gold in, didn't you? Or else, and then literally a week after they'd stopped the cut-off deadline to hand your gold in, the price of gold went whoomp, and everyone who didn't hand their gold in did very, very well out of that thing, blaze. But they made it illegal to sell it up until a certain point in time, right? So it could be a long-term hedge. It could be a time until you're allowed to sell your gold into this new system that we found ourselves in at this point, right? With the new currency. But we'll assume that it's set up and you obviously can trade in gold again, but it's just all now in the new currency of the new system. Yeah? That's where you then cash that gold into the new currency so that then you can carry your wealth over. That's ultimately the idea, right? So potential confiscation, also limited value versus mass, right? So in terms, if you had $500,000 you were trying to carry over as your wealth, if you look at how big $500,000 of gold is, that's a proper pallet of gold, right? And storing that, protecting that, keeping it safe, yeah, it's pretty tricky. It's not easy to do. So that comes with its own problems. The fact that it's limited value versus mass, you know, in terms of its density of value. Even a diamond of the same size and weight would be worth more theoretically, but that's on a different slide. Jewelry and fine art, don't forget. Yeah. So David and Laura, then, before we go on to the next option for wealth survival, 1 ounce gold coin is $2,000 US an ounce right now. Easy to hide 10 of them, yes, which is a pretty good head start in the new system, isn't it? 10 of those, that's $20,000. That's going to put you ahead of probably 99.9% of the rest of the population, just that alone, versus no one else having anything, because it's all just sitting in fiat currency. Kaput. So, Amphia there, CBDC is limited to 20 bags of sand, because they did say the maximum you'll be able to hold in your account is £20,000 as part of their new central bank digital currency. How would anyone be able to sell a $50,000 coin when gold goes to $50,000 per ounce? That's a really good point, Amphia. That's a really good point, yeah. Because you don't know what the denominations may be, right? But you would imagine that whatever it is, the 1 ounce, because so many people have them, including the billionaires and the powers that be guys, they wouldn't outdo themselves with that. But of course, they'll be running their own system with their own limitations, more than likely. So, IE Media there, my friend gave me a 2.5 billion Zimbabwean dollar note for my birthday, and I checked the exchange and it should be 22 million pounds, but the notes are no longer legal tender. This is crazy. This is the thing with inflation, you see. It's going to be ludicrous, right? It's about 250 1-ounce coins. Thank you so much, Daily Survival. Here's a super chat, Streamlabs super chat. You'll see a notification come up if you want to support the show and show your appreciation for tonight's efforts. So let's move on then from physical gold and silver. I think we've covered most of the pros and cons, and like I say, it is still the most popular vote for the poll tonight. Yeah, what is the safest storage of wealth to survive an economic crisis? So get your votes in. We'll be revealing the answer and cutting off the poll towards the end of the show. Coming up soon. Not that soon, but a little bit soon. So next, melt and recast the 1-ounce gold. There you go, David. Yeah, you can melt and recast into little 100 gram or something. Yeah. So here we go then. Go on in, Crypto Sam. This is your bit, Crypto Sam. Steam in there with your cryptocurrencies, because that's what we're looking at now as the option, right? So let's look at what the pros and cons are with cryptos. And the problem with this is it could go one way or the other, right? So first and foremost though, good for small amounts, right? Quick and easy to invest. A little bit like gold in small. I mean, just in terms of good for small amounts, it's also reasonably quick to get hold of gold and silver right now, but the longer it goes on, obviously the more difficult it's going to get to get hold of it, right? As stocks start running low, which they already are. So crypto equally good for small amounts and large amounts, but obviously the larger the amount, the more the risk goes up, really, because I do see this as being highly volatile, as you see here, and it could be just outright banned, which is one of my suspicions, is that because of the central bank digital currency being a digital currency, I can't see how the powers that be are going to be happy having a competitive currency running alongside their currency, because why would anyone want to use their version of it when there's a freer, more privater, more quicker, more less controllable version of it, or less controlled version of it, manipulated version of it for the people. So that's the first problem. And as I exposed on the Friday, last week's SHTF Intel report, linked in this description below, I exposed then about how, indeed, as it's being called, the choke point, Operation Choke Point 2.0, right? So the same way as back in the Obama administration, where Operation Choke Point then was where Obama was making it difficult for things like gun stores and things like that to do banking or to take credit card payments and stuff like this. They just made it super hoops to be able to shut down things they didn't want running. Poker gaming and stuff like this was also something that was added into that Operation Choke Point by Obama and their administration. And the same thing's happening now, but the 2.0 is because it's happening in cryptocurrencies, where all the stuff with the silver bank, the Silicon Valley Bank and so on, of course the FTX bank before that, leading to a lot of what's been going on. And I feel that was most likely a big setup as well, just to demonize the crypto industry, like I predicted about 2.5 years ago, where I said the way they'll take it down was to demonize it, set a few of the big exchanges up to fail, and then they can say, oh, because it wasn't regulated, because this, because that. It's like, no. And we're seeing it all topple now, but We say that, don't we? But what is crypto's doing now? Crypto's is pumping. It's doing all right, yeah? I just don't know up until what point. I mean, it could go our way, so to speak, as in it could break off and just become the thing. They could lose control of the narrative altogether. And during that week or 2 week of transition through the Great Reset into the dust settling, the new normal, so on and so forth, right? In that process, a lot can happen by the people, for the people, right? Anything can happen in that time. This could become it. And if it does become it, it is going to the moon. To the moon, right? So I would say at the very least, just put $100 into it, just for a laugh. Just for a laugh, right? But don't take my advice, because it's not financial advice. It's just, you know, for information purposes only. But I wouldn't write it off completely is what I'm saying, but I also wouldn't put everything I've got into it. This is why I'm saying it's good for small amounts, subject to your appetite for risk, if you know what I mean. Gold for the win, says David. We have had a couple more votes in. You are your own bank. Cross-border movement with no limits, 100%. Talking about cryptos. One good EMP, how'd you spend it? You got exactly the same problem with fiat currency though, haven't you, David? Because of course all the cash point machines wouldn't work, and neither would the ATMs, neither would the retail bank credit card swipey business, right? The same thing happens, right? You wouldn't be able to buy anything online either, so the EMP and the grid down thing is equally matched with fiat currency and cryptos. There's no, in fact, cryptos has got more chance of carrying on running in a down scenario than the international banking system has. Yeah, because of the way cryptos works and because of the way the blockchain works, it's kind of self-healing, right? Whereas if hsbcbank.com goes down, that's it. There is no access to your account. Whereas there's no such thing as that with cryptos. You'd have to have every single node on the blockchain network go down all at the same time everywhere in the world. It's not going to happen. Or at least it's less likely than the few points of failure that the international banking system has, because it's centralized. That's the point of decentralized finance. DeFi. Decentralized finance. Not centralized, where you've got one failure point or one point of control. That's what the central bank, the clue's in the first word, central, right? Yeah, central bank digital currency. So, although it could be banned, it could go to the moon, right? But again, ban it. What does that look like? Don't forget, there's a lot of whales, a lot of big stock investors, a lot of even elites and billionaires who have got crypto themselves. So are they going to see it being banned? Of course not. Who do you think funds and lends the money for these mining farms that cost like hundreds of millions of dollars to build and put together? These mining farms of all these mining rigs. Yeah, the equipment is epic levels of sheets. You don't get that out of the bank for nothing. The sorts of people that are funding these crypto mining farms are big boys, right? So they're not going to want to see it go down the pan either now, are they? There is a certain understanding of IT that you would need to be comfortable with, but it's not much. It's very, very user-friendly. That is the point of cryptocurrencies. It's no different than being a child learning how to get, you know, $1 and get your 50 cent and your quarter and your 10-cent change. It's just learning that again with the way crypto is. There's nothing more complicated than that. And by now, anyone watching this has probably got enough understanding of IT just merely by the fact that you worked out how to create an account on YouTube and log in and click the bell and the notification icon for the Sigma Prepper subscriber thing to make sure that you're always here on the show. So I already know that you guys, anyone watching this, has a good enough understanding of IT, right? You can't spend it in shops. No, but don't forget, this is about carrying it over to the new system. So the idea being is you'd have like $10,000 worth of cryptos, and then maybe after that would be like 1,000 CBDC credits as an equivalent, right? And you may only get 100 CBD credits per month as your universal basic income, you see. So that could be a big old boost, isn't it? Like 10 times a month's sheets. could be the equivalent of $10,000, for example, that you put into it now if you had Epic Sheets, right? That's the idea. And so you would just sell that when the market's good with the new system, whenever it's up and running. If that's 1,000 central bank digital currency credits, or whether that's 500 UBI credits, whatever it is at that point, right? You would convert your crypto, whether that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or one of the others, XRP, and other things that people talk about, XLM, right? That's the plan. You need a power grid, yeah, but you need a power grid for the fiat currencies as well, don't forget. So it's just that there's no pro or con there, it's offset. Yeah, and equally without a power grid, how do you exchange gold either, right? It's the same problem. So yeah, I can't use crypto as toilet paper. You can't set fire to it as heat either, like you can fiat currency, right? Just a question, what happens to our pensions? I would say, unfortunately, Kaza, I would say the same as what happened to people's pensions in 2008. A lot of people are moving their 401ks and things and pensions into like precious metal stocks and stuff like that. You can ask your financial advisor to do such a thing for you, or whatever, whoever controls your 401k or pension scheme. But yeah, this is partly why, let's just say part of the reason why you've seen everything happen that's happened in the last 3 years, if you know what I mean, has been because the money isn't there to pay the pensions. Yeah, because there's such a massive number of elderly people claiming their pensions with the boomers and all that stuff, that there's not enough people coming into the Ponzi scheme, the pyramid Ponzi scheme at the bottom, yeah, to be propping up the money they're supposed to be paying out the pensioners at the top that are already retiring. This is the problem. This is the reason for the Great Reset, Kaza, I'm afraid. Is because of that. Because the unfunded liabilities, which are things like pensions and future costs that the government should have already budgeted for but hasn't, right? It's going to be coming out of somewhere's money, next year's money. 21 year in advance's money is what they're spending at the moment, right? Screwed, says Crypto Sam. Potentially. 401k is hosed though. I'm guessing hosed is like wiped out. But this is what happened in 2008. Do you know what? One of my old clients from Thailand when I lived there, right? One of her best friends had he lived his entire life for his retirement, right? He worked every day, all the overtime he could. He was a good earner. And he used to put something like £2,000 a month into a pension so that he could have an epic pension. He went without new cars, he went without holidays and vacations, he went without nice presents and stuff like that for his friends and family, so that he could have epic money putting into his life insurance and his pension and stuff like this, right? 2008 came round and he lost the entire thing down to zero. So imagine that. And he was about 63 years old, just about to be at the point where he could benefit from it. Can you imagine that? You've sacrificed your entire life living in the future rather than living in the present. Yeah, that's the difference that separates every other animal species on this planet with humans, is the fact that they all live in the present. We're all too busy regretting what happened in the past or getting anxious about what may or may not happen in the future, right? What keeps animals in survival mode all of the time is they're constantly in the present. Yeah, so in 2008, that dude lost a lot. And he is probably living a life of regret now, because he might as well have just lived his life nicely and done the things he wanted to do while he was alive and while he had the money, all through his life for the last 45 years that he's sacrificed £2,000 a month, or that's about £3,000 if you take over consideration the exchange rate over that period of time. That's about $2,000-3,000 a month every month into a pension that just has disappeared. That has got to hurt. So let's do it then. Let's get to the next one, which is going to be, fun enough, the stocks, bonds and shares. And to be honest, Kaza, I would wrap this up into the pensions thing as well, because I see it in the same light. And again, Kaza's put a lot into it as well, but there are things that you can do, Kaza. And I think like Neil McCoy Ward's good. I'm a great fan of Neil McCoy Ward when it comes to financial stuff. Big employers best on pension. PBGC is supposed to handle it in the US, but I really don't know the details. Hose is Canadian for wiped out. I am multilingual, says Danger Bob, who's from America. But you did say that you can throw a stone to Canada from where you live, Danger Bob. So I'd expect you to be bilingual over the fence. So, yes, Robert McNamara there is saying he's lost 40% of his pension already. That's terrible to hear, Robert. David and Laura there, I keep looking at it in my investment stock portal. I need to seriously learn it. I'm so behind the curve on crypto knowledge. Well, I'm going to be doing a show all about it. And I've got another show I'm planning about AI as well. I've got a lot of shows to do. I did lose it all in 2008 and they said it would never happen again. Robert McNamara, you see? Yeah, this is real stuff and the same's going to happen on steroids this time round. On steroids, I'm telling you. So in terms of stocks, bonds and shares, I'm not a massive fan of this, I've got to say. I think out of all of them, this is probably the one that makes me the most nervous other than cash, right? Makes me even more nervous. Any fear, you know, having a bank balance of thousands of dollars or thousands of pounds or something would make me more nervous. But stocks, bonds and shares, it could be good. But you're so going to need to know what you're doing in terms of what you're choosing. And some of it could even just be raw pot luck at this point. It's the domino effect that we can't predict. Even the elites, BlackRock, Aladdin AI computer probably can't predict what stocks are going to survive and bonds are going to survive or not. But because of anything that's really based on fiat currency and denominated in it, we have to assume has the possibility to go to zero. Including pensions, including stocks. Yeah, if businesses just get wiped out, look at what we've seen. Yeah, with the federal, the central thingy-bob bank, what was it? FRC, was it? Someone will know in the chat which one just recently, and of course Credit Suisse as well, the stock price on, but it was the FCCB bank stock has lost 86% of its value in a year. 86%. That might as well be zero, let's face it. Robert McNamara there saying about his 40% of his pension already has gone, let alone before we see the proper woomph. Yeah. David and Laura's not feeling great about stock market either. Look, never put into Wall Street what you are not ready to walk away from, 100%. And you could say the same with cryptos as well, obviously. However, it is good for small and large amounts, you know, with the bonds and stuff like that, government bonds, but again, tricky, really tricky, especially if we don't know what currency they're going to be moving into. So quick and easy to invest. Of course, you can set up an investment account tomorrow with ease and start, you know, using your direct debit card, your direct, you know, bank transfer, whatever you're going to do to start your investment, right? So it's like crypto and like gold and silver, it's pretty quick to make investment and take delivery for gold. Do allow a week or two for that, obviously. So potential profits, stability, I don't know, because, you know, let's face it, if you're investing in something like Google or Apple, you could say, well, I'm pretty confident that they're going to survive the test of time, and so the shares are still going to be worth something coming out the other side, because we're always going to have Apple, we're always going to have Google, we're always going to have Amazon. But not necessarily. Can we rely on that? Can we? We don't know what the fourth industrial revolution is going to look like. Just we've seen already what ChatGPT 4.0 has done. I did a good segment on that on the Friday SHTF Intel show. Don't forget, do check that out if you missed it. Right, I talked about AI. I showed you some of the jobs that the ChatGPT 4 own AI system told me would be the first jobs to go, now that ChatGPT is doing so many of these things that other people used to be paid to do. So Miss Worm's got a decent amount of premium bonds. So these are all options, right? I'm not as familiar with this. I don't have any stocks and shares of anything. I've got about $100 worth of crypto that would probably cost me more than $100 to combine it all together into something to be able to even take it out of an exchange. It's probably not even worth it, right? $100. Yeah. My son's got some ounces of silver that I've bought him Christmas and birthdays over the years, but yeah, we've been up against it for the last couple of years since COVID took me out and wiped me out with the business I was doing at that time, back in 2020, right? And I've been trying to scrabble out a hole since. And a lot of people in the same situation. It's like people are being bled dry almost on purpose, right? Crypto Salmon House, being on board and being in bond is what caused the issue with the banks. They were heavy in government T-notes, exactly. But as the Fed raised rates, their balance sheets went lopsided. To put it simply, run started, 100%. And this is why I just feel nervous about the stocks, bonds and shares. But let us know what you think. I mean, if you can put any more pros in there. I definitely have more confidence in precious metals physical than this business. Because let's face it, stocks, bonds and shares, this is why I'm saying when it comes to the physical gold and silver, not GLD, SLV, stock paper price stuff, actual, because of the same reason why I'm just not feeling it. Not feeling it. We are always, this is a brilliant quote, well done David, look, we're always going to have Kodak, Sears and Polaroid, 100%. And Toys R Us. Yeah, what happened to Toys R Us? Robert McNamara there. My 401k is at Edward Jones. I had no choice at the time. Let us know, Robert. Are you able to move it anywhere? Because I've seen a lot of other American economic and financial based channels talking about options for 401k accounts to be moved into other things that are more safe or perhaps more future proof to what we're facing. Danger Bob there saying in Crypto Sam, if they're able to hold to maturity, they will be okay. It's when they have to sell at a discount they get bit. And this is exactly what we've seen recently, where Credit Suisse was leveraged quite heavily on stuff, and then when the interest rates changed, it meant that they basically got negative equity. So then all the other banks have had to basically open accounts in Credit Suisse account and put deposits in there so that Credit Suisse can use those deposits to keep themselves afloat. It's not a good look. It's not a good look at all, right? It's not going to end well. And so this is what happens, you see, with the stocks, bonds and shares. I just feel like it's going to be the thing that's going to be, oh, yeah. But let us know your thoughts. Let us know in the comments how you're feeling about it and anything you want to add to stocks, bonds and shares. Cons, total market collapse possible, as we've just said. Yeah. Government printing, the inflation. So don't forget, all of your stocks, bonds and shares are based on dollar currency or pound currency. So as the pound and the dollar changes and loses value with all the printing, right, the inflation is basically from the government printing. That's going to affect the value of your shares, your stocks, your bonds, all of it, right? So that's the problem, the government printing, and they ain't stopped yet. And of course, as we've just been talking about, look how badly things happened in 2008 when it came to the stocks, the bonds, the pensions, the shares. It was just a bloodbath. Gold for the win again, says David. 100%. I think it was Peter Thiel that started the run. Yeah, I saw that. Well, the dude on the breakfast show, whatever it was, isn't it, who talked about it? Toys R Us, brilliant, yeah. Toys R Us will always be around, won't it? Space Hopper Mark, great to see you in the house. Gold and silver, but invest in some privacy cryptos, coins, Pirate Chain, yeah, Zero, Monero, and so on, 100%. Worth doing, even just a little bit, because you never know. Great to see you in the house with us, Space Hopper Mark. Have you voted in the poll tonight, Mark? Have you seen the poll up there? We've got 26 votes so far, and do hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. Great to see you. Look at all the love for Space Hopper Mark in the house. Welcome him in here. So Monero would be my choice. Never heard of the others. I mean, Pirate Chain's a big one. If you follow Dollar Vigilante, stuff like that, he's been a big pusher of Pirate Chain. But the privacy coins just make it less visible and more privacy, less collusion, interruption, and so on. So I think we've pretty much covered off stocks, bonds, and shares. Thanks, Space Hopper Mark. It's confirmed. Yeah. Robert McNamara, the way it works, the value of shares, if I move now, I will take a beating. This is the problem, innit? This is where I'm putting my money. And JP Morgan looks like they're going to be the next to start showing some troubles as well. So we've got a lot coming down the pike, and it's going to be affecting all this stuff big time. So it's feeling super market collapse possible. Right, on to jewelry and fine art. Yeah, see, Rafael of Crypto Vigilante, who was a spin-off from Dollar Vigilante, but they are buddies and they know each other. Although Dollar Vigilante, you got to go on Odyssey for him now. So yeah, jewelry and fine art. Let me know what your thoughts are, right? So diamonds, pearls. I'm not going to break into song. Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince. Bless his cotton socks, eh? Jewelry and fine art. So, you know, you're talking like art, investment art, jewelry, diamonds, precious stones. Cheers, everyone. Too big to fail. So, yeah, I mean, what can I say? Share your thoughts on this one. Pros. Good for small or large amounts, theoretically, I suppose. You know, some bits of jewelry. It's difficult to know. It's difficult to really know what's going to be valuable or not really then. But of course, this is where the billionaires and millionaires tend to put their wealth, isn't it? They do tend to buy fine art as investments. That could even be things like Rolex watches, you know, collector's pieces, and of course fine art includes things like pottery, you know, statues, paintings, and so on. Yeah. What else we got? Quick and easy to invest, theoretically. Yeah, you can buy bits and pieces. But again, I mean, good value stability, you would imagine. Jewelry, if nothing else, is worth the weight in gold. No pun intended. Yeah, the gemstones are always sellable, typically with traders and things. Once everything's gone through the reset, out the other side, dust has settled, new system, new currency, of course. This is the long term, don't forget. This is a long term after the event, where we're now wanting to find ways of transitioning back into whatever we've invested in before the event into the new system, with losing the minimal amounts of money along the way as we possibly can, right? So let us know if you can see any of the pros and cons with jewelry and fine art, because I've just started the first 3 on each of these, right? Just thinking that there'll be others that we can come up with. So we've got the risky unknown sell market. Like I say, we don't know what's going to happen, do we? Whether is there even going to be an eBay, right? Is there even going to be a Sotheby's, and so on, right? Crypto tips is good to follow. 100%. I'll be doing a dedicated show on cryptos. I used to be a blockchain developer and smart contract writer as a programmer and stuff, and worked big time in the crypto industry from the inside out. So I'll be able to share an awful lot of what I know and what I feel about the crypto industry. I'll do that as a dedicated show. Just doing some other errands whilst listening. Andy's good friend as you are too. We should hang out here more often. Decent bunch here. Amen. So Crypto Sam here, not worth the money in jewelry. Art is a big one as it's more tax related, less tax on art. Which are again more considerations. And don't forget, this is just information purposes only. It's not financial advice. It's just what your options are, really, and other people saying what they would do if they had sheets to survive the Great Reset or the economic crisis. So of course, with the cons, tricky stuff. I mean, I don't know nothing. I don't know anything about. I know nothing about fine art enough to know. Yeah, so it's a risky unknown sell market. You know, you got to be specialist knowledge to know what you're doing, because you know you're just going to be setting yourself up to fail if you haven't got a clue, right? you'll end up buying a fake Rolex or, you know, some fake painting. There's always that, yeah. And of course, then you got your safe and specialist storage. I mean, if you got famous, very high value, famous paintings and fine art, a lot of these things need to be kept in like specialist air conditioning, you know, humidity controlled environments to maximize and maintain that value and not, you know, suffer from depreciation just from it getting gnarly, basically. So it's a tricky one, right? Yeah, look, exactly what I'm saying. My understanding of fine art ends with dogs playing poker, 100%. Gold and silver, the only answers is crypto, Sam. Space out of Mark. I'll be on his other channel Saturday. Oh yes, good one. I'll buy Velvet Elvis art piece. Definitely. So here we go then. What else have we got here? Hardware and stuff is next, isn't it? So I don't think many people are feeling particularly confident with jewellery and fine art. But don't forget, if you have got significant sheets, if you've got several $100,000 worth of sheets, then it's difficult to know what to put it in. And obviously diversification is the key. But yeah. So here we go. This is one that I'm reasonably strong on. Let me know if you agree. But because of all the unknowns, I think one of the things that is underrated, right? A lot of preppers don't talk about this. Is just hardware and stuff. Look at how much lumber prices went up during COVID. Imagine if you happen to have had 23-meter lengths of lumber, you know, 2x4 and stuff like that. People literally trebled their money just with lumber, wood, copper cable, just a roll of copper cable, right? The amount of money, the amount of inflation in those sorts of things has been epic, right? So tools and all things like this, right? Seeds, just stuff that you're gonna need. Tools, just spare bits, right? Good quality stuff that can be sold on eBay, not even as second hand, but just goods that are going to become, you know, somewhat difficult to get hold of. You know, generators, electric generators, stuff like this that are never going to be not needed on the other side. Stuff like this, right? Gold for the win again, says David. I have tons of stuff, says Daily Survival. Yeah, and this is what leads me back to the beginning of the show today. I was talking about not throwing stuff away. Yeah, not throwing things away, keeping bits and pieces, even though they might be broken, because there are elements in them that can be valuable. You don't know yet. If you've got the space, just keep it, because you never know. Next door neighbor in the crisis might need it and want to barter something with you. Could be coming in handy. But even for after the event, being able to convert any of your hardware and stuff back into real money. Well, not real money, because what they're going to end up giving us is definitely not going to be real money, but you know what I mean? The new systems money, which we'll assume is a central bank digital currency of some kind, yeah? So, you know, quick and easy to invest. You could be buying all sorts of stuff. Even ammunition, for example, right, comes under hardware and stuff. Think it through, right? Anything that doesn't have a sell-by date, right? And anything that's not going to be obsolete too quick, you'd be surprised. It'll probably hold its value. Gardening tools, yeah. Yeah. Plywood, 100% Robert McNamara. Plywood has quadrupled in price. And it's always usable as well. 3 years ago, I bought an extra few sheets of plywood. Some 4-foot by 4-foot stuff, I think it was. And that's trebled in price now. If I was going to try and buy that now, and I bought some sheets of plywood just in case there was, you know, through any SHTF scenario, if windows were broken or a door was kicked in or something like that, you would have the means to be able to patch up repairs and secure your property, right? I'm glad I bought that plywood then, and again, I could sell that plywood sheet today for 3 times what I paid for it. There's only a couple of sheets there, but either way, it just goes to show that these things are super valuable, right? We bought some compost, right? You know, composting, big bags of compost, and because it was cheaper, we bought a whole pallet of compost, like 25, 30 bags of it. Yeah, this is stuff that's still sellable today. It's still on a pallet, it's still in its wrapper. I'm afraid to clean out my storage areas and garage, yeah. because you just never know. Yeah, you just never know. Yeah, long-term usable items as well anyway, right? You're going to end up using them at some point, even if you don't sell them the other end of the reset. So what are the downsides then? And again, share your thoughts in the comment section below if you're watching this afterwards, or live in the chat with us now. Let us know how you're seeing it. All that stuff requires... Pedigree Mongrel in the house, great to see you, my man. All that stuff requires somewhere to store it, 100%, so back to land, into land where it is at, 100%. So again... As we see here, one of the cons, unknown sell market, who knows, right? We don't know what the values of these things are going to be. Storage space, as Pedigree Mongrel there says, yeah? If you're in a one-bedroom apartment, you're not going to be able to keep much stuff. But the stuff that you do keep, if you're clever and think it through, you'll be surprised. You can think up some stuff that it costs quite a bit of money. You could even, I could even say... You know, this doesn't have to always include legal stuff either, if you're going to be thinking outside the box. Think about that, right? Not that I'm condoning anything, I'm just saying hardware and stuff. I mean, it's just anything, isn't it? It's just anything that's got value. That's up to your own creativity is my point, and your own means to market, or your own friends group, or your own town, what it's got, what it hasn't got. If it's full of builders and electricians and, you know, maybe tools is the thing to have, I don't know. Seeds have skyrocketed, another great one, Robert Monaro. Yes, that's included in hardware and stuff, right? Seeds, food, all that stuff. Space Hopper Mark says, spend about £2 on tinned and dried food. Nicely done. At least my belly I'll stay full, 100%. You can't go wrong on food, because look at the inflation on food. Right, you would have done well on that. Obviously, the problem with food is rotating it with the shelf date on it. But of course, non-perishables or your mountain house 25-year dried, freeze-dried type food, that's going to maintain its value, isn't it, for a certain number of years? It maintains its value. That's going to increase in value food over the years. So anything you can save. And of course, as one of the other downsides as well as that is maintenance and depreciation. So, you know, if you're buying electric tools, wireless tools or something like that, yeah, cordless tools, sorry, you know, there could be a depreciation element or some maintenance needed, but usually it's all right. So this is basically what the options are as a total overview of what we've talked about, right? Now, you'll notice the one thing that isn't here is the fiat cash money, right? Because it didn't seem like there was much need to put it in here. Because obviously it's just not going to be usable. It's going to go to zero, and if it doesn't go to zero, it's not going to be usable for people during the SHTF. And the whole point of the SHTF reset is that when you come back out the other side of it, whatever currencies we were using around the world before will not be the currencies that will be in play then. Right? So this is how it's all looking. Yeah. So Robert Monaro got a large supply of lead. Yeah, good one, lead. And again, this is why I say just things like copper, like just like copper cable. People are taking copper cable now and they're just selling it for the copper content by weight, and they're making loads of money. I've got a friend of mine who does a job every day and he gets to pick up bits of copper cable, and every now and again, every month or so, he goes to a metal redeeming place or whatever, and he sells that per the kilo or per the ounce to a scrapyard. Yeah, it's all got value and typically going up. Cigarettes, says Daily Survival, that could be another thing. Yeah, cigarettes. Probably good to barter, most definitely. Shoes and boots, Netrum Design, 100%. Yep. Just, yeah, clothing. We have rabbits, can eat and sell the babies. World War II knowledge, 100%. Hey, swap some spam for a rabbit. Like it. And again, things like chickens, yeah, building out chicken coops and, you know, stocking up on chicken seed and chicken feed, if you've got things like that, right? That's a good idea of things included in the hardware and stuff, right? Livestock, but again, you've got to keep them safe, yeah, during the you know what. So this is kind of, I'm an experienced hoarder. One is none. That's why I have 2 sheds. Yeah, 100%. And again, for those that do have the space, I do advise not selling anything, or well, not selling anything, but not throwing anything away or taking it to the scrap heap, just because we never know what we may regret throwing away if we've got the space for it, because of what's coming up, and it's probably going to be quite soon. So this is kind of how we see it. This is how we see it. Now, obviously, as I said at the beginning, you know, there are going to be other investment options and other ways of doing it. You know, we can think of any better alternatives. Yeah, livestock need to keep them fed too. Yeah, and don't forget that's kind of covered as well in the when we talked about this, pets and animal supplies. So that includes their supplies for your animals and their food and things, when we were looking at the different prepper profiles, the different types of preppers who tend to forget certain areas, and they're really passionate, the animal lover, about some stuff. They've in fact got more food for their pets and stuff than they have for themselves at the top there with food storage, right? So do bear in mind my advanced prepping principles. This is the gadget geek who's got all the gear and no idea, and like no hunting and growing, and then you got Sigma Prepper who should be looking like this, right? So bear that in mind, because the idea is to be incrementally prepping and making sure that you're not missing out stuff. And again, just to retrack, we had the Commando here with all the security and protection, but not a lot of anything else. You've got a Kitchen Queen as well. Don't be the Kitchen Queen. No protection, loads of food and stuff. You're just asking to get robbed and have it taken from you because you've not spent a single penny on the security and protection. Go for about 10 to 15% of what your prep budget is should go on the security and protection, just as a rough, my own personal guideline that I'd recommend, right? So Robert McNamara there, still behind on building my chicken coop because of prices of materials. Yeah. So this is kind of what we're doing, and in the chat below, please let us know if there's anything more that you can come up with that you would like to add as other investment options. It doesn't look like there's anybody in the chat at the moment, live chat with us, who's coming up with any better alternatives than what I've come up with so far to get us set up to have the conversation tonight. So we let the chickens run free, they stay close and eat bugs, we grow the rabbit food. Brilliant setup. We'd love to have somewhere where we could be you know, in there having, I don't think we'd get away with having chickens. They're coming for the meat, they certainly are. And in the UK they're making a register of everybody who's got chickens as well. Makes you wonder why. So onto the live poll results then, shall we? Shall we check out and see what the totals are? We've had 27 votes in the live poll, so thank you everyone who's joined in with the live votes. And the live poll, for those that are watching this after, was what is the safest storage of wealth to survive an economic crisis? In your humble opinion, what is the safest storage of wealth to survive an economic crisis? And the options I gave you, I didn't put hardware and stuff because it was out of these I was interested to see. Gold and silver, stocks and shares, cryptocurrency, or land property. And you chose, as the top answer, was gold and silver at 71% of the vote. So gold and silver was 71% of the vote. Stocks and shares was 0. Nobody voted for stocks and shares. So it seems a lot of people are feeling the same as I'm feeling when it comes to stocks and shares as an option for long-term wealth survival and carrying your wealth through the Great Reset to the other side. Stocks and shares had 0 votes at all. Cryptocurrency had 7% of the votes. And then we had the land and property getting 21% of the remaining votes. And that's how it ended up. So it does look like gold and silver is the winner, and I must say I do agree. But going back to the options that we've got here, I would also put a lot of weight into the hardware and stuff if you have the room, just because it's usable, and that includes food, that includes preps, useful stuff. Yeah. And of course I agree with you, the gold and silver precious metals is probably the safest bet at this point. And again, this is the long-term approach. So when you come through to the other side, to reconvert that back into whatever new currency that they've given us or thrust upon us. So let's see what we've covered then. Don't forget, this is not financial advice. This is just us looking at all the options and saying what we would do in a situation, right? So please hit the like button if you've learned something or feel my efforts have helped others to learn. Yeah, thank you for your support. Why we should prepare, we've looked at unique individual considerations to apply it to you in your situation, your climate, your country, your culture. We looked at the prepping principles briefly, the difference between a 1 week and a 1 month preparedness plan, what that would look like. Of course, the prepper profile examples that we looked at as well, so you don't get caught out not forgetting, you know, obvious stuff or less obvious stuff. Investment and wealth survival options, we did a lot of that, and thank you so much for your contributions in the chat and in the comments below. And of course the pros and cons of each of those, which is good to look at as well, because it's a difficult one and only you can decide based on your appetite for risk, based on the access you have and how many funds, how much, you know, resources you have to put into things will determine your own decisions on that, what you feel is best for you. And of course the other investment options that you suggested, we talked about livestock and things like this, and a lot of things come under the stuff of it. Lost all my gold in a boat accident, officer. Yeah, I lost my crypto keys in a boating accident, as they say, yeah. Gold for safety, crypto for gamble, greed. So I would say I quite like the idea of gold and silver, hardware and stuff. And if I had epic sheets, I'd probably be looking at investing in land, but it would be done through some offshore company buying the land, not myself as an individual, which is probably, if you imagine that's what the billionaires and the elites do, then you'd imagine the rule will be a walled garden around that way of doing and owning property, no doubt. So that would be another show for a more specific topic. But and everything else we've talked about in between. Don't forget to catch up with this video if you haven't seen it before, prepping, the advanced principles of prepping. The link is in the description for that one. It's well worth watching if you did miss it. We'll cover a lot of stuff, and we talk about even up to a 12-month preparedness plan in that one, and we look at all the options available to you. It was a great one and everyone thoroughly enjoyed it. And of course, what's coming up, we've got loads coming up, so you know, don't forget, we've also got the SHTF Intel video, if you missed that on Friday, talking about the banking collapse and the economic crisis, which is obviously why I wanted to get this out there before talking about the show we've talked about tonight, so we can say what we're going to do about it. Of course, you've got the T.I.A Tactical Intelligence Report, the global analysis, great videos that come out every Monday. We'll try and get one up this Monday as well coming. I don't know what she'll be talking about this week, but well, week 12 this week, she's been talking about a banking crisis. Again, the link for that video is in the description below. Please make sure you watch that, give it some support. This is a great one for sharing on your social media. If you can't help this channel in any other way, this is probably a good one to share on your social media and get it out there. It's a nice 4-minute clip, tells you what you need to know, lays it out, right? And of course, we also have our SHTF scenario, survival scenarios like we've had tonight. We'll be having those every Thursday, typically. And of course, this is an example of the Sigma Prepper live show, but we'll be doing this as a special. I'm hoping on the 1st of April is the anniversary 1 year of Sigma Prepper. So we'll be doing a full Sigma Prepper live show special as our 1 year anniversary. So watch out for more information on that. Ignore the date here. This is just a screenshot from a thumbnail from last year for our Sigma Prepper live show. And of course, that Sigma Prepper live show does include, there's 2 of me here, look, does include the Sigma Prepper quiz with A, B, C, D, multiple choice, various questions, and there's always a winner at the end. Last winner was Daily Survival with 6 out of 7. So there's winners, and obviously you'll be celebrated as the winner of the Sigma Prepper quiz. We'll be having that on the anniversary. Please share your best quotes for that, because we'll be doing the Sigma Mindset quotes as part of that anniversary show as well, like we were doing. So please send in your quotes, your favourite Sigma Mindset quotes and Prepper quotes, to quotes@sigmaprepper.com if you'd like to share your favourite quotes, and we'll share them with everybody live on the anniversary show special for Sigma Prepper coming up in the next couple of weeks. Here's an example of Sigma 1%. Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups, right? So thank you so very much. Quotes at sigmaprepper.com if you'd like to join in with that. And of course, as well, we'll be having our very own Preppers Progress. So if you've had some progress you've made, you want to send me in some photos and a little bit of an update of what you've been up to. We like to share your progress to inspire people and others to show the kind of stuff they've been getting into, whether that's building their chicken coop or whether it's buying a new little gadget that you've got for your preps. This is your opportunity to show it off to your mates here on the channel. And again, we get various, you know, of our VIPs and non-VIPs and just subscribers sending in some of the cool stuff they've been doing as part of their preps. And if you want to join in with that as well, and we'll cover your progress and give you some heads up and some respect and flex, then flex your gear at progress at sigmaprepper.com, progress at sigmaprepper.com, and we will be having a full Preppers Progress segment as well on the anniversary show, so don't miss that. And loads more to come as well, loads more to get into, and wow, what an epic show it has been. So this has been Surviving the Economic Crisis. For information purposes only, I will say again, I'm not a financial advisor, nothing in this video shall be considered financial advice, so no. But what can I say? Coming up, we got more things. Surviving the economic crisis. We've done the grid down scenario, timeline of a disaster, surviving the economic crisis. We've just covered today. We've got loads more coming up. Bugging out the option C. You've got ABC, homesteading, bugging in, or the option C, which is bugging out. We need to cover that off. The ham radio communications in SHTF with the full how to program your Baofeng start to finish show we need to do. We've got security and defenses for homesteading show we need to do. We've got the first aid kit one we need to do. I've got my zombie apocalypse bug out case that I want to be going over as well. So there's a load more shows coming up. Please let me know in the live chat and in the comments if there's any particular shows you want me to do up front that you're really keen for me to do, and we'll do one of these full in-depth, full breakdown, all the detail shows we like to do, critical thinking, logical scenarios we think ourselves through, and just be realistic about what we would expect and what we're going to do about it coming up. And with that is the end, my absolute beauties. And what can I say? Part of the Prepping 2023 SHTF scenario series by yours truly, Sigma Prepper. It's been a great show. I've appreciated each and every one of you here. Let's get back to the main room and let's catch up with our crew, because don't forget, coming up we have got our after party exclusive for our VIP Patreon members. And again, I do have to say a big thank you, because this show is sponsored by you. Couldn't do it without you. I am 100% independent. I have no sponsors. I have no membership to any networks at all. I have no paid adverts, no monetization, no external funding, no affiliates or partners. No one loves me. Everyone hates me. But that's not really true, because these people have helped me in this way with the way you can help. Patreon, great thing. Streamlabs.com for super chats live. PayPal, great way to support and make sure I can keep coming back. Patreon.com/StigmaPrepper is the best way. And we've got a bunch of people helping me stay alive and be able to do these channels while we build the channel up to a size where it can be self-sustaining. But in the meantime, Sigma Prepper Patreon is where you get behind the scenes videos, which I need to start getting rocking on. We've got the after parties that you get to be part of, like tonight after the show. And this is the wonderful people that are making it happen. I need to do rolling credits at the intro sequence and the outro sequence to give you full flex and support for your support of me. Thank you to each and every one of these fine people for keeping me coming back and helping to bring it all for you, everyone else as well. So again, links in description if you'd like to see yourself on that wall. You can help me from as little as $6 a month, which is about 20 cents a day. Can you afford not to? Here we go, that's the question we're asking. So let's get back to the main room and let's figure out how we're going to be rocking out and getting into it. Great information tonight. Sigma Prepper says Daily Survival, thank you so very much. Thank you to our Urban Harvesting, just entered the chat. Just got it. Hello, Batman. So we're going to be getting into the after party over on Discord. If you're not familiar with Discord, you can get yourself over there. Of course, you can jump over to sigmaprepper.com, the website, my website, and of course over there you'll see all of the links and everything for Sigma Prepper. So sigmaprepper.com, go and check me out. All the socials on there to follow and figure out how you want to follow me. Down the bottom in the footer behind me, and various things as well. But of course, you've got the Discord link here, free to join completely. But once you're there, you do get access. If you are a VIP Patreon member, you will also have access to everything going on here in the VIP area, which is where we have our after parties, where we all can talk to each other live, which is great, and I thoroughly enjoy it, and we talk about loads of stuff. So text chat, loads of stuff in there going on, all the preparedness stuff as well. It's all rocking. What can I say? It's been a great place to be over on the Discord server for Sigma Prepper. So please join for free. And if you'd like to support me over on Patreon, again, all the links for that are all in the description. Yes, they are. So thanks, Kaza. Really appreciate you being here. Love Tia, says David and Laura. Thank you for your support with Tia. Let's get her shared about as best we can. Night, Kaza, Robert and Amara. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I do hope you've enjoyed the show. Please hit the like button if you haven't done already. Thank you, everyone, for your support. You're such a great bunch. Change of plan has the luxury of being historically tried and tested on a global scale. It's all happening, isn't it? Right, now I'm going to be trying to do regularly updates of SHTF news during the week was my plan. So that is the plan. Thank you so much for those that support me in that. I think I could outdrink a fish. Yes, ham radio. Again, AliExpress, I saw Baofeng ham radios for like £12. £12, right? Crazy. Daily Survivor Day, great times tonight spent with the Wolfpack community. Much love all. Again, great show, David. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for supporting me. Look at all the love coming. It's so lovely. Old IE Media up there for 7 AM. So yeah, and we'll hook you up as well, IE Media, and we'll catch up anyway tomorrow, no doubt, my man. So thank you so much, Robert McNamara. Such a great supporter. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And again, what can I say? I've had a great time. I hope you had a great time. And for us VIP Patreon members, we should be getting ourselves rocking and rolling over on the Discord server after party right about now. But in the meantime, what can I say? I've been Andy from the Sigma Prepper channel. It's going to be a year old soon. Whew. Love, peace and progress to the pack.